Welcome back to the TV Boys, the podcast where we dive deep into the world of television and uncover the stories behind the shows that we all love and the ones that fell flat. Today, we're tackling a fascinating and often heartbreaking topic: the factors that contribute to the failure of TV shows. I know we all love TV shows, but we've all watched those TV shows that are just not the right one. So, one of the first factors that contribute to the failure of a TV show is uninteresting story. We've all watched that TV show that we just see it and we're just unable to follow the plot and we just have no clue what's going on. We lose ourselves in the absolute boringness of the show. What do you
Uh,
think, Hyder?
yeah, I can definitely agree with that. There was this one show I was watching. I forgot the name. Citadel. That's it.
What's
Not
Citadel?
it was not that
What's
great.
Citadel?
Huh?
What's Citadel?
You mean Citadel?
What is it?
It's a TV
It's
show.
a TV show.
Yeah, I haven't seen
I
it.
watched like a little bit of it. It seemed like it had like interesting.
Is it the one from,
It
like,
seemed
the
kind of
Father from
interesting,
Captain
but like,
America?
it sounded like it had something going
Sebastian
for it.
Stan? Ain't that the
Oh
one?
my God, bro! This guy.
The plot of Citadel, it's like two agents that go around. They work for like an agency company,
Yeah, exactly.
and they're like two spies basically, and they like go around. It's just an action movie, but the reason why it flopped was because a lot of people felt like it wasn't what Amazon
Hyped it up
Prime,
to be.
yeah.
Exactly.
and it was something that Amazon had given people a lot of in the past. Like a lot of TV shows follow the same plot as Citadel, so that's kind of the reason why that show.
I haven't seen it, so I'm not gonna opinion about that.
What personal experience do you have with TV shows, Rodrigo?
I haven't really watched that many TV shows. I watched Loki. That one was good.
Why do you think it was good? What do you
It
think
was
was
amazing. It was intense, entertaining.
good? Would you say the story was interesting?
Yes. It
So-
was in space.
Wait, what show is
Well-
this?
Loki, are you done?
Oh, never mind.
What would you say to shows that have an uninteresting storyline?
They're kind of boring. No action, you know.
Okay.
They're boring too much.
All right. Yeah. I kind of agree with that too.
Okay. So the second factor we're gonna speak on is poor acting.
Say the movie thing again.
So as far as poor acting, it just really undermines the story of a plot. Like, you could have the most well-written script in the world, and if you have poor acting, you can't really get your message across. It also affects the credibility of the characters. It affects our ability to take the characters in the movie seriously. What do you think about that?
So yeah, there's this one movie I've seen. It's this one American actor with like, he's very well known for liking the Russian President Putin. Like he was some like karate like guy, like black belt. And like his movies are possibly some of the worst like acting movies I've seen. Like they're horrible in acting. The plot is not any better either. Like the plot is no good, but the acting is horrid.
Would you say some of those effects that the bad acting had on the show mirrored some of those that I just listed here?
Yes, definitely.
Okay. So now we're going to be speaking on low viewership in TV shows. That's pretty self-explanatory. Not enough people are watching the show, but some of the solutions that some TV shows could offer are obviously changing viewing habits, like shifting from traditional forms of television like cable to streaming services like Netflix, Amazon Prime, stuff like that can really help boost the viewership of a TV show. Also, improving the budget doesn't really have a huge factor in this. If you find good actors and you're able to use them to your advantage, then you have a good TV show. What do you think about this, Hyder?
Um. So yeah, I have to agree with you there. Low viewership e- equates to what? Just overall poor performance, like on the TV show in general. So
Like budget counts as well, like budget money, like
yeah.
it counts as a part of it.
Yeah.
Or like is it just like acting part, or like the
Well,
script?
no. Like everything factors in at one point into the TV show.
But which budget can affect the viewership because
Yeah, less advertising,
Right.
and that equals to less people seeing it.
You
less
also have
knowing
less
about it.
quality cast members, less quality set design,
Yeah, yeah,
stuff like that. And budget can also be used as a excuse to not make a good TV show because I could make a bad one and say, hey, well, I didn't have the budget to pull this off. When really, we see indie films all the time that pull things off without proper funding.
financing. Yeah,
Right. So, there's that aspect to it too.
totally agree with you there.
So basically, we're gonna speak on one more topic that comes across is seen as bad in the movie industry, in the TV industry, is bad editing. This is obviously, a huge factor. Poor CGI, audiovisual. My friend here, Hyder, is more of a technological person than me, so he can kind of touch on that topic. a
Yes,
little more.
sir. Poor editing in general just like affects your shows or movies, like just overall having like low quality sound effects, or like what, just overall like low graphical quality, and using like older camera setups and whatnot is going to like greatly like take a hit on like how
Talking
the
about
show or movie comes out.
talking about cameras, is like the camera position also matter?
Oh yes, the angles especially. That is a another factor. Like you need to use the right camera angles for each scene, so that it actually makes sense with what's going on in the scene.
Otherwise, it could come across like the scene could be misinterpreted. Like
Yeah, if you use like a, let's say an ultra wide angle
Right.
for something that's supposed to be like an intimate scene or something, then yeah,
Like
you
for
know.
example, the Black Panther movie, the one that like the Killmonger became king, like the camera was backwards and then it flipped. 'Cause
Yeah.
it meant because like
That
the
was
stuff
those-
flipped.
Those camera angles haven't also like they can sit well with the viewer. They can have like an emotional
Yes,
thing
it
on the
like
viewer.
creates like an emotional like kind of like connection to the
Yeah,
viewer and stuff.
and the viewer could see it as being like, oh, this is a really epic scene. Like
Yeah.
I want to get more into this movie. So sometimes we'll see those used sometimes in the beginning to entice the viewer more.
Yeah, like let's say for example, you have like this large battle scene between like.
Or
I'm
like
just gonna make this
Godzilla,
up.
the Godzilla,
No,
the
I'm just
old
gonna
movie.
make this up. It's like
Those
some
movies.
large battle scene between like some samurais or like
Right.
like that.
And, like the
And,
show
like-
starts off with that.
Yeah, and let's say it's an like a wide angle lens, or like a wide angle a wide angle lens.
Yeah.
So you're gonna be seeing like the whole battle and everything, and you're gonna realize, oh yeah, this is happening. It's gonna look cool and stuff. However, if you like go from wide angle to like what's it called? I think it's
Zoomed in.
a torso shot or something
Okay.
like that, where it's only like zooming in on like a specific like
Part of the body.
yeah, only like two people specifically or three people. It's kind of like more like, oh yeah, like you can kind of tell that these guys are kind of like
Yeah, I would agree with that. I would if I watch a show and if there's like an epic battle scene and these cool camera angles and this awesome music which we spoke on in the audio visual, I'm gonna be like, this is a show I want to watch, and that'll continue on, and it'll allow the show, it'll buy the show time to introduce me to sort of the plot, and then that plot will get me interested even more, so they can kind of let their foot off the gas.
yeah. On the topic of music, music is also a very important factor in shows and
Yeah, like
movies.
for example, like a fighting scene, you're not gonna put like some old classic music while there's a fighting scene. Am I right?
Well, yeah, actually, you are right. You are right there. You probably put something like hyped up, like some rock or something. I don't know.
Or if the director wants to invoke a sort of emotions in the viewer.
Like
He
like
might-
in a fight, like someone's important cares about it, that they
Yeah,
can put some sad music.
Right, exactly. And so yeah, that's kind of the way it goes. So there's not a specific type of music for any specific type of scene. It
Yeah.
really varies based on what feelings that the director wants you to feel.
Yeah, exactly.
So we're gonna go over some examples, TV shows that kind of or failures based on just what we've been speaking on the past episode. So one of the examples that we kind of touched on in the beginning was Citadel. The show Citadel, obviously, it was some of the notes that the critics put were the plot was uninteresting and unoriginal. That's something we spoke on. It being unoriginal. If you have a plot that you've seen many times before, you're just not going to be too interested in that. What do you think about that, Hyder?
Yeah, that's completely understandable because you've basically seen that plot already.
Right.
So you're just gonna be seeing it again, just
In
with
just a-
different actors,
right.
maybe like a different like overall like what is it called, a setting and stuff.
Yeah.
But if it's overall the same plot, yeah,
It
I
won't-
completely understand. It's unoriginal.
Right. And then the other note that they put was it was a show that was unwanted by common viewers of the network. So maybe that the viewers of this network, they had seen this kind of content before, so they switched to, I believe this was released on Prime. They switched to Prime to kind of see different kind of content, and Prime tried out. This is something that happens a lot when a certain streaming service will try out a show and it doesn't work out, and that's fine because trial and error, and you have to get a gauge for what your audience wants, and clearly they didn't want this show. What do you think about that?
Yeah,
Yeah, like I agree. Like if the show's not, if no one really likes the show, like for example, the Rotten Tomatoes that counts for the critics,
Right.
and the viewership also rating, and like they was like they put the movie was like it was alright. It was like it was not terrible. It was not that good either.
completely agree. I'm surprised they're making a season 2 of it.
Yeah, they really didn't seem to listen to the critics, but we'll see how the season 2 goes, and maybe they've kind of switched things up, and the
Maybe.
viewers will enjoy it a little more.
Maybe they'll make a comeback.
Sure. Yeah.
Maybe they're making season 2 chance.
And the last example we'll go over is the show She-Hulk. So they the notes they put is it wasn't a traditional superhero movie like we expected. So basically, if you think of Hulk, it's like the Incredible Hulk, like the
Yeah,
superhero.
super strong, buff, like green guy.
Yeah.
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 The She-Hulk series was just like teaching the other Hulk. It was like something like that.
Yeah, it was like a lawyer,
Yeah, she was apparently a lawyer or something.
and people just weren't expecting that. It was supposed to be like a traditional superhero movie, and yeah. And then they also felt that it was a level movie, low budget, which we spoke on compared to the original. So that's kind of our footnotes
Yeah.
for this episode. Thank you for watching. Have a good day.
All right. Peace out, gang. Hello, everyone. This is the second episode of the TV Boys podcast. I'm here with Maddox Boyd, and I am the co-host Hyder. And today, in this episode, we will be talking about how cultural trends and societal shifts influence audience reception and ultimately contribute to the failure of certain TV shows.
Yeah, so we're gonna go ahead and get right into it. So, one of the main points that we want to touch on is the outdated social norms of some of the TV shows. Shows that like may stick to old-fashioned values and like certain shows that may have been popular in the 80s and 90s. Some people in the movie and TV industry may try to replicate that success with a new TV show. But ultimately they may fail, and they'll be like, well, why did we fail? And that's because a lot of the values, cultural values, have changed from, especially in the United States, from even like 30 years ago to today. So one of the examples that we have is possibly like a show that portrays gender roles from the 1950s. We know that obviously women didn't have a lot of rights in those days, and yeah, and that thing that message that the show is sending across may take some, like a comedy, for example. It may take some jokes from that topic, which might be hard for some people to watch, and it might lead to the show receiving negative reception. What do you think, Hyder?
Yeah. So I completely agree with Maddox here. Um, Societal norms have changed, especially like in the United States, from what even like up to the 80s,
Yeah,
90s,
80s and 90s. Yeah.
and looking at how we are now, like, and looking back,
Hmm.
it's like all different. So I can completely see why a show would fail if it tried to replicate something from the 80s or 90s or even like farther back,
Right.
because back then everything was like different.
Okay. Another one that we're gonna do is a lack of diversity and representation of the TV show. So audiences may want to see characters and stories that reflect the real world's diversity. And if you have a TV show, and this kind of ties into the first one about the outdated social norms, where in TV shows from the past, a lot of shows, there's shows that have diversity, but a lot of shows were either like they were targeted toward a certain audience, so they would have like one race of a cast or another race, and obviously there are exceptions to that. But again, if you try to recreate that, audiences may not like that because again, nowadays, even if you go into the real world with employment, employers are always looking for um, diverse staff to hire.
It's true.
So the example that we have here is a show with an all-white cast. Might not attract viewers from diverse backgrounds who want to see themselves represented on screen.
Very true. Yeah.
So like, yeah, so like possibly somebody migrates here from, I don't know, Africa, and maybe they want to see, their cultural representation on screen, and it's hard for them to find that. So they might stray away. And we also know that the United States is a very diverse nation. It's nicknamed a melting pot.
I
So
mean, it's literally built off, like, the United States is built on immigrants and stuff, because it's just not only white people. It's like a bunch of different races
exactly,
and ethnicities
if we
all bundled into one.
yeah, if we look at like neighborhoods in the United States and stuff, and everything that is built off of, starting off with slavery and the railroad, the transcontinental railroad, from Chinese immigrants and Irish immigrants as well. So yeah, there's a lot of America's very diverse, and that diversity is people prefer to see that on screen because nowadays they find that entertaining. And then the next one we have is ignoring social movements. And again, this all kind of ties in with the diversity. So um, maybe there's a show that maybe there's a time where there's reform for women or something, or empowerment to women. And there's a show that's kind of making fun of that. And sometimes it's unfortunate to where shows and are released during a movement that could affect that show, and they may fail to address or respect current social justice issues, and that would cause them to receive some backlash. What do you think about that one, Heidi?
Yeah, totally. So, let's say, for example, we had a show that was made during what's that time period in the 60s where
Right.
black people started gaining rights. Let's say we had a show made then that, was not like, it was discriminating like negatively against
Right.
black people during that time. And during that time, that's when tensions were up and stuff.
During the civil rights movement.
Yeah,
and stuff,
civil rights movement and everything. So if you had a show that like that back then, at that time, it basically not like be viewed at all, because lots of stuff is going on. So
Right. Yeah, so that's kind of that. And the example that we have here is a show that makes light of serious issues like racism or sexism can be criticized and lose viewers. So, yeah, that's kind of it's pretty self-explanatory there. If you have a show and it's ignoring or making fun of a certain movement, it's going to receive criticism. So the next one that we have is generational differences. This is pretty self-explanatory. Obviously, different age groups are going to want different things. Older age groups may prefer more slow-paced movies, while younger people may prefer action-packed TV shows. So that's just kind of self-explanatory there. And obviously, we also know that the streaming industry was made popular with young people. Netflix, Hulu, Prime Video, whereas the older generation tends to use cable. What do you think about that one?
Yeah. Okay. So, adding on to what Maddox said here, older people back then didn't have any streaming services and stuff like that. So whenever they wanted to watch a show, they'd have to be like, there's a schedule, and at that specific time, they'd play that show on schedule. So older people tend to usually watch shows like that. Like they don't typically watch it like streamed and stuff.
Yeah.
However, the newer generation, younger generation, they have streaming, so they usually like just watch it whenever they want. I believe it's called binge watching. So yeah.
Yeah, we've all been there, and yeah, that was a pretty good
Yep,
explanation.
I've definitely done that.
Yeah.
With that one show, Barry.
Oh yeah, very.
Very good show.
We also have here social media. So maybe for this one, it's social media has a huge impact on everything in our society today. That includes TV shows. So if there's a show that maybe somebody dislikes, somebody in high power, this is called hierarchical diffusion, when an idea spreads from somebody of high power to a bunch of other people. And maybe somebody like a sports player posts something on Instagram saying, hey, this show kind of sucks. I don't like it. That would cause people to say, well, maybe I don't like it too. And they'll hear those reasons, and they'll stop watching it, and eventually that will break the show. The example we have here is a show that goes viral on TikTok or Twitter can attract a lot of viewers quickly, whereas negative buzz can deter potential viewers. So that's a very good example. What do you think, Hyde?
Yeah. This is gonna go a little bit off the rails. I'm gonna talk about something else. But it's also still about the impact of social media. So I'm pretty sure you guys know. Yeah, this is. Okay, so what back in 2016, 2017. This is still about media, by the way. Not social. Well, actually, it is still social media because this was on Twitter, that kind of platform. I think maybe even on Instagram. I know it was all over YouTube because my dad used to watch that
Facebook
all the time. Yeah, Facebook, Yeah. So back in 2016, 2017, Pakistan's president Imran Khan, he was no, not president. Sorry, prime minister. He was elected into office. Everything seemed to be going good. I'd say he's probably one of the best Pakistani prime ministers ever since the 40s when the country was formed. And the media, especially like rival parties, they absolutely hated Imran Khan because he was, he's obviously, it's a rival parties. Like they don't like him, and they basically like had control of media in the country since Pakistan is like a very corrupt country. It still is a very corrupt country right now. Like it looks like they're about to go into a civil war. Looks like soon, but they controlled media and stuff, and Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube. I've seen so many videos on YouTube about this stuff. My dad used to watch it all the time. He still sometimes does. He's a big political dude about Pakistan and the South Asian countries. Yeah, but they basically ruined Imran Khan's reputation, and he got what's it called? Whenever you get like forced out of office, impeached. He got impeached, and he looks like he's facing jail time. And what happened was, I think it's called like the coup d'etat or something. Like whenever like the military like
Oh, when they like take over the
yeah, whenever they take over the government, the military took over the government because the military is still like they have like the top members of the military are what supporters of the rival parties, so they took control of the government and everything's like screwed up over there. So that's how social media can affect things negatively. Of course, a social what's it called? A TV show isn't gonna have as bad as an effect as what the country of Pakistan, because
Yeah.
now you have a failing economy. Um, people are not happy about this. Looks like there's gonna be a war soon. Everything's unstable over there. With the TV show, you're just gonna have, oh yeah, it's not a good show, low sales and like just overall like bad money and bad
Yeah.
reviews and
I think that's a perfect example, real world example of social media and how it can affect not just a TV show but anything, and just the drastic impact that it can have on somebody's perception. That's why we have things like defamation and stuff. So
propaganda.
right. So yeah. The next point we're gonna speak on is global appeal. Um, some shows are really targeted towards an audience in one area, sometimes even just the United States. And that's fine because there's a lot of viewers in the United States and a lot of people uh, to watch that show. But it's also important that TV shows keep their content globally understandable and accessible. Otherwise, you're going to lose out on a global market that would otherwise love to see your show if you just made a few minor changes to it. Yeah. What do you think about that, Hyder?
Yeah, for sure. So there's a show that I saw. Um, so there's a show that I there's a show that I saw, and it's called Ertugrul Gazi. It's a Turkish show, but it's uh it's basically like a show about the Ottoman Empire and like that those times, and it's meant to be like it's like the primary audience is supposed to be Turkish and whatnot, but they have like what um different languages that the what's it called, the show can be viewed in. So I remember viewing the show in Urdu because well, with my mom, she watched it actually she watched a lot of it, and she used to view it in Urdu since we speak Urdu and we like we I know she understands it and stuff, and that's basically like global appeal. So the show, it's a good show in my opinion. The fact that it has multiple languages that it could be viewed in really like expands it across
Right.
like the viewers like I I don't like I think you guys know what I mean.
Yeah.
Like
And I've watched Turkish shows too where, because I only speak English,
yeah.
and you can either see them in English. I prefer to see the subtitles rather than have them dubbed in English. But yeah, you can still watch the subtitles.
Yeah, the subtitles too are great. It's a good addition to have subtitles too.
Yeah.
Which I mean, I love what I have. I never watch anything dubbed usually,
Yeah.
especially anime. Never
Oh,
watch
yeah.
anime dubbed. Always sub, bro.
Yeah, it feels so unnatural when you see the characters' lips moving, but they're not saying the same
Yeah,
thing.
and like I'd say in the original voice, everything
Right.
just sounds like it's supposed to make sense.
Right, more natural.
Yeah.
So that's kind of something too to think about with TV shows is dubbing and stuff, and also translation. Some shows like just kind of leave that up to the streaming services and whatnot that air those shows, and like the translation might be completely off, and it might get a completely different message across. And people who know that show will say, "Well, that's not what that really means." So it could also lead to bad publicity for the show. So the next thing that we have is a pretty big one. It's economic factors. Depending on the conditions of the area that the show is released in. Shows that are released globally, like what we just spoke on, might not have this issue as much. But if you have a show that's released in a country like Vietnam or something, you might not see as many people who have a television set who are able to like watch the show.
Yeah.
So there's that to think about as well. Is if you're gonna release a show, make sure that you have factored in how many people are actually going to be able to watch that show, and if not, then you would have to factor in that global appeal that we just spoke on, so that you can get a global audience. Usually in the United States, that's not too big of a deal, as most areas in the United States are pretty well off. Not to say that like there's not poverty in the United States, but a lot of people here have a TV, and if you release a show in the U.S., it's not hard to reach people.
Yeah, especially through the internet.
Right.
And stuff like that. Since most, actually, I'm pretty sure, majority people in the United States have internet, especially due to the affordable connectivity program and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So, a lot of people do have access to internet.
The government has made it to where most people can afford to have that luxury.
Mm-hmm.
So the next factor we're going to touch on is content overload. Explanation for this. There's just so many shows available that audiences could be overwhelmed with the choices. So if you're making a show that's really generic, it could be a really good show, but let's say there's like 3 horror shows, and you're making a 4th. That's 4 horror shows that one viewer or one group of viewers is gonna pick through, and instead of you having like a unique show,
instead of you getting all the attention, your
Right.
attention is getting split between 4 shows.
Exactly.
So you have 25% of the attention of the people,
and people might not even think to bat an eye at your show, especially if it's the last one on the list. So people may ignore your show, so make sure that your show is able to stand out. You can do this through a good poster design that will entice the viewer. Things that'll bring the viewer in, or just a really original idea, something creative that'll definitely catch the viewer's attention, and maybe change future shows as well. The next thing is changing tastes in humor and drama. So nowadays, we know that the sense of humor is changing. When you speak with an old person, when I speak with my grandfather, he uses sayings and stuff that I don't quite understand, and it's a kind of humor that I find really funny, because it's not something you hear every day. Whereas when you're here with surrounded by younger people, they also have a humor that I find things that people of my age group think that I think is funny.
The Sigma.
Like with what Hyder's saying, there's a lot of new language that's being used in new generations, like the words Sigma. Yeah, it's a funny topic.
Yeah, I completely agree. My dad, he's 70 years old, and a lot of the stuff he thinks are jokes. I find them funny, but you don't normally hear that kind of stuff
Right.
every day.
So it makes it more unique.
Yeah.
Whereas, there's people with a unique sense of humor, but a lot of times we hear these newer generations, and with the spread of social media, YouTube especially, spreads stuff like this to younger generations of kids, which is a problem in and of itself, because we also see just that kids are becoming less educated in the way they speak, with certain certain memes on the internet that are circulating.
Yeah, bro, for sure.
Yeah, it. Yeah, you can look into that for yourself with the Generation Alpha.
The
But
brain
yeah,
rot.
right.
Skimmy toilet.
Yeah, it's stuff that should be looked into. Hopefully, hopefully change.
Real talk. This is like
Right?
completely off topic, but Skibbity Toilet, like, I mean, dead for real. Like the actual like videos on YouTube made by the guy, they're just supposed to be like goofy like Gmod animation videos,
Right.
like from like what, the early 2000s and stuff. It's supposed to replicate that feeling, but I don't know how Gen Alpha found this and like turned this into a like absolute brain rot like meme, dude. I don't know how.
Yeah, they. I would say they do ruin memes. They get old. So that kind of ties into TV shows because TV shows are gonna have to adapt to this new humor eventually that Generation Alpha has. Now we don't know because Generation Alpha is still a relatively new generation, so we don't know whether when they develop are they going to is that sense of humor going to change or is it going to get worse? We just don't know as of right now.
Yeah, it's gonna get worse with this brain rot stuff, dude.
Probably.
Hope not.
Hopefully not because
I don't
then
want to see the street signs and everything.
yeah.
Like those billboards be like, what the signal?
Yeah, then TV shows would also have to incorporate that if they wanted to succeed. So that's how changing tastes in humor and drama affect a TV show. If what the Sigma is a popular phrase and people want to see it used, then that's going to be something that a TV show is going to have to incorporate, and it might be something that an older generation may not appreciate.
Yeah, it's true.
So the example we have here is shows with humor or drama styles that were popular in the past might not appeal to today's audience. That's what we were talking about with speaking with older generations. And then the last one to speak on is cultural sensitivity. Nowadays, audiences, with the spread of technology and social media, the diffusion of knowledge around the world, people are more aware of the cultural practices and cultural importance throughout the world. So, insensitivity to certain cultural traits will also lead to the downfall of a TV show. People might say, well, that's not true about this culture. Or that's cultural appropriation.
Stereotypes, especially. So,
Yeah.
like, let's say there's a stereotype you've been hearing a lot, and it's of African American people liking the Dodge Hellcat series of cars, the Scat Packs, the Challengers, the Chargers, the
Right.
Hellcats, the Demons, whatever.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a good car and stuff, but
Yeah.
it's a stereotype. And the other stereotype is them like liking chicken and watermelon and stuff like that. I mean,
Yeah.
it's all stereotyping, and with the current generation becoming more sensitive to
Yeah,
this kind
more-
of like racial stereotyping. A show with this kind of stereotyping may not catch like a what.
It might not sit well.
Oh yeah, it's not gonna be good. It's like the audience is not gonna like it, and it's gonna lose like popularity overall
Right.
with people, and it's gonna get backlash for it for sure.
Yeah, I completely agree. That was a perfect example. So, that's pretty much it for episode 2 of the TV Boys, diving into TV shows, mysteries of failure, trial and error, and success. This has been Maddox Boyd, and
Hyder Moinuddin.
we'll see you in the next episode. Thanks for
Yes,
watching.
peace out, guys. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the 3rd episode of the TV Boys. My name is Hyder, and I'm here with Maddox.
Maddox Boyd.
Hell yeah. This episode we are going to be talking about poor marketing and promotion and how it can lead to the failure of a TV show.
So basically, let's just jump right into this topic, the final topic that we're going to be speaking on. So the first topic is lack of awareness. This is very obvious. If people don't know that a show exists, they're not going to watch it. So like a great show. There's plenty of great shows and movies and pieces of film out there that people have seen that are not even like popular because they're not available on certain streaming services or something like that.
Poor advertising also.
Right.
You know, they just don't have like the money to invest into lots of advertising. Which I mean, if you're gonna make a show or a movie,
Yeah.
you have to advertise it heavily because
Yeah.
you want people to watch it and you want to make money
Right.
off people watching it.
You have to include that in your budget.
Yes, definitely.
As far as that solutions for that go, you could probably, I mean, really putting it on a streaming service, streaming platform like Netflix, Hulu, that will help. Like Hyder said, advertising is crucial.
Yeah, recently on Instagram, I've been seeing a whole bunch of ads on the Garfield movie, and you know, I really love Garfield. I loved reading the comics, and I loved the cartoon show they had too. I used to watch it all the time as a
We
kid.
watched it too, yeah.
Stuff was goofy. Yeah, and you know, the new movie is like, oh, it's like everywhere, like everybody's talking about it. So like, that's very good advertising right there. I really want to watch the movie actually when it comes out Memorial Day weekend.
Yeah. So yeah, the next thing that we're gonna speak on is something we already touched on, ineffective advertising. So we'll move on from that. And third one we'll speak.
Actually, we could talk about trailers.
That's true. So when you speak on a trailer, what do you think?
Whenever I see a trailer, like the thing I want in a trailer is like I guess the most like, I don't want it like too much of the movie to be spoiled. I want like some of it to, you know, or like most of it to be in like, you know, like you would need to watch it to actually understand it. But you also want to see like the major events.
Mm-hmm.
Sort of like not like all the major events,
Right.
just like maybe one major event and like some of the side events, so that like usually the major events are the ones that are like, you know, the hook point for like the viewer.
And you want to get the absolute climax of that major event.
Yeah.
And make it a very short scene, so that it leaves the viewer longing for more, and allows him to go, and he's gonna want to go watch that movie and see those exciting scenes.
Exactly.
So,
yep.
epic music, all of that. So next, yeah, video games also use these tactics. So the next one is target audience mismatch. They have to read the ads that the producer puts out has to reach the right audience for it to be effective. So if you're putting out ads, if you have like a documentary series and you're putting out ads to like a group of young people, maybe even kids, like kids aren't going to usually want to watch documentaries. So you know, you have to think about that as a factor as well. For example, promoting a teen drama on a news channel instead of a social media platform can hurt teens, because we know that most teens don't watch the news. They get their news from social media. So that would benefit. What do you think about that?
Yeah, we actually kind of touched on this on the last episode, because we were talking about global appeal and whatnot, and the advertisements need to reach the correct group of people, just like Maddox was talking about earlier.
Exactly. Next thing we're going to talk about, poor timing of promotions. The timing of ads and promotions is crucial for building anticipation. So if you time an ad way before the release of the actual movie, it's going to create a lot of hype in the moment, and then all that hype is going to die down. And then when the movie comes out, people are going to be like, well, what is this movie? And then they're going to, very few people are going to see it because they're going to have forgotten about it. So that's very crucial. You also don't want to release it too soon, because it just doesn't give the movie opportunity to kind of grow with a targeted audience. So
a good example of this is, you know, I'm a big Eminem fan. I love Eminem. Like, he's a good rapper in my opinion.
Right.
I'd put him next to Tupac, you know, Biggie and all that stuff. I love what you call hip hop in general. It's like my kind of music. Um, anyways, he's releasing his new album, Death of Some Shady, this May 31st. He's releasing it like at the start of summer break, and Eminem has like a large young audience. Well, it's kind of mismatched. Like he has older people like in
Right.
their 50s, 60s also listening. Then he has like 20s, 30s, and he has like also people like me, like
Yeah.
younger generation listening to him. So at the start of summer break, people usually go on vacation. Like obviously we are, leaving school. So this is a very good time for him to release an album because, a lot of people are gonna see it. They have free time.
Right.
So yeah, that's a good thing.
That's very.
And another, hip hop group, Homicide Gang. You may or may not have heard of them. I also really like him. I wouldn't say they're as good as like Tupac or something, but they're still pretty good in my opinion. They also recently released an album. I think a
Right.
few days ago. No, last Thursday. So about a week ago. And since it's like summer break starting right now, it's also super popular right now. So yeah.
Exactly. That's perfect.
So like,
example.
timing is like key, especially like whenever you
Yeah.
are gonna release something and like hype it up.
To a certain demographic as well. Next thing is lack of social media presence. That's pretty self-explanatory. You got to have a social media outlet, multiple really, because we all know that Instagram is used by young people for the most part. Facebook is used by kind of an older generation, and there's all the other ones, Snapchat,
Snapchat is more like a texting,
Yeah.
stuff like that.
TikTok.
TikTok is kind of like a rip off of Instagram. I'd say.
Yeah.
Well, really kind of like Vine.
Right.
YouTube is used
Is
by
a
a
huge
whole like,
Everybody uses YouTube.
you could have like a 80-year-old, 90-year-old man like
Mm-hmm.
watching some like tutorial video on how to fix his 2001 Ford Crown Victoria. Or you could have like a small child like watching like I don't know
Right.
like Mickey
Coco
Mouse
Melon.
cartoons.
Yeah.
I never watched that stuff.
Me neither.
I mean, it didn't exist back then. I used to watch the old Mickey Mouse cartoons from the 30s and 40s.
Right.
That was the good stuff.
Those were good. We've touched on failure to build hype, ignoring influencer marketing. This is a pretty big one. When you have influencers, celebrities, if you have somebody who can build your show that's credible in the eyes of the audience, that's huge for getting, especially somebody famous. Like we've seen, this is a pretty, big, like Taylor Swift, for example. She has such a huge outreach. She has like a huge influence over not just aspects in the musical world, but aspects in like the political world and stuff like that. So,
Yeah, recently in the Super Bowl game, we saw this actually
Right.
happen. Like since her boyfriend like Travis
Travis
Kelsey,
Kelce, yeah.
yeah, since he's a Chiefs player and Taylor Swift is his partner, obviously Taylor Swift is gonna like the Chiefs.
Exactly.
And her fans, they're like really most of her fans are really devoted to her, and they also love the Chiefs now. So
Exactly.
the Chiefs have a really huge following because of Taylor Swift. Not like they didn't have a huge following back then. They're still a really good team in my opinion. I mean, I also kind of like them personally. So there's that.
Yeah. So yeah, things like that. You get a celebrity to support. We saw that the Super Bowl viewership did go up with those the Swifties tuning in.
Yeah. To add on to this, LG, you may or may not have had an LG phone back in the
Yeah.
LG was really popular in the phone business. They probably were like I think second or third, like I guess first or second being Samsung or Apple, and like third was LG or something at the time. Like so years ago, LG was on top of their game, but they had a bunch of revolutionary ideas. Like they made like the first curved phone and stuff, and yeah. LG phones, in my opinion, were good because basically all my phones have been LG phones except the one I'm recording this on right now.
Right.
And LG, actually, the big part of LG's mobile phone market division fall down was, or not market, like the LG's mobile phone what's it called? Decline was LG was refusing to not really refusing. Actually, yes, they did refuse they refused to send out units like LG phone units to like tech influencers. Like they didn't send it to Linus Tech Tips or what some other phone review guys or whatnot, like tech review guys, and those influencers they're really popular. Like they still are super popular nowadays with like technology and stuff.
Yeah.
And LG not sending it to them, it like really like lowered their sales and whatnot, and it led to them completely falling out as a phone company. Now they're just making like what refrigerators and whatnot.
Yeah,
which is
they're
kind of sad because
appliances.
LG was like, in my opinion, probably one of the best smartphone makers.
Yeah,
I
I believe they make TVs too.
Yeah, their TVs are good. They have high quality screens and whatnot. They're like kind of like competing with Samsung on top of like
Yeah.
screens and whatnot. But my last phone, LG Velvet, I loved it. It was relatively cheap, but it looked hella nice, and the camera and everything was good. It was getting kind of old, but yeah, it's kind of sad I had to replace. But
All phones have to die at a certain point.
eventually, well, that one still runs pretty good actually.
Yeah.
I know.
We have a lot of other things here. Bad first impressions. Obviously, if your ads don't look good, people aren't going to watch the actual movie. But one of the important things I'm going to touch on before we give our outro is neglecting word of mouth. Back then, we know that TV wasn't as popular, especially in like the 40s and stuff. And so like the way word spread about TV shows was through word of mouth.
People like talking about it, or maybe through newspaper or something about the
Right.
super like good show or something. I'm
Yeah,
not
maybe your friend is like, "Oh, I watched the show last week and it was really good."
sure. Oh yeah, and I'm pretty sure back, like a long time ago, my mom, she used to tell me stuff about this. Since she grew up in India in the 60s, 70s, 80s, and TV sets back in India like they weren't popular, but like people really like watching TV. So
Right.
in India, what they used to do is they used to have TV shows actually played in theaters. I'm not sure if they did that in the States back in the 40s or 50s or something like that, but they did that back in India. So if you wanted to watch like a show or something, you could go to the theaters and watch it. So that's something
Yeah.
pretty cool.
That's a pretty cool aspect there.
And yeah, usually the shows back then, like my mom told me her friends used to tell her about what shows or like movies to watch
Yeah.
or you can go to. She used to hang out with her friends and stuff.
Yeah. So even today, like when we talk to our friends, I'll talk to Hyder and he'll talk to me, and we'll share shows with each other, and that'll lead to us watching some good quality entertainment. So that's still a very important aspect in the movie industry.
For sure.
This has been the final episode of the TV Boys with Maddox Boyd and
Hyder Moinuddin. And our editor here, Rodrigo Olvera. He's currently not present, but he's going to be editing our videos.
yeah. So he will have a heavy impact on the release of this podcast.
Yes.
So thank you all for tuning in, and we'll catch you in the next one.
All right.
All right, so changing topics because I got bored. All right, so another topic is: are there specific genres or formats that are more prone to failure in the television industry? Like comedies, dramas are the most successful in the shows, right? But like game shows, like science stuff, like avant-garde, I don't know what that is, but traditional, bit more popular, but decline in popularity more in the future. Because the younger artists like comedy, you're on the life, entertaining shows, intense shows like superheroes and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. What's it called?
So what makes what specific genre makes a good movie?
So we know
I
that
guess drama and stuff.
the statistics do point towards dramas and comedies being more popular overall.
Yeah.
Shows like romance movies and stuff like that for
They're, like,
romance
super-
movies.
Super popular.
Oh, I love those.
Yeah, we know you do,
They're,
Rodrigo.
they're not
Cut that out, cut that.
they're not found popular among a certain audience, like the male audience predominantly doesn't enjoy those movies, while the female audience does enjoy those
They
movies. So,
love romance.
yeah, not everybody, but a lot
But
of them.
most of them,
Yeah.
yeah, predominantly female.
And like the Hunger Games was a romance movie at the same time, as in it's like an intense movie or something like that.
There
Oh
could
no,
be,
that's the Wonder one. That's the Wonder one.
and that's what shows
No,
will
the
do.
Wonder. You never seen like that movie, Wonder? Like the one that was a book and they made it into a movie.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, they made a sequel, which is not a sequel. It was like the past.
Oh, a prequel.
Yeah, prequel.
Okay. Yeah, so sometimes the director will incorporate aspects of romance into a movie, or they'll incorporate aspects of violence or stuff like that in a romantic movie, so that they can get a certain audience enticed. Like if I'm a male watching a romance and there's like an action scene, I might find that to be really interesting and entertaining, and it might entice me to watch more of the movie. What do you think?
Yeah, I completely agree. You know, adding, like, let's say, there's this show I actually recently watched. It's called Barry. Very good show, by the way. I absolutely loved it. Gavin, he recommended it to me. Basically, it was it was comedy, but it also had a bunch of action. It was, like, dark, too. It had romance. It had, like, a bit of everything. It was dark. It had, like, its dark moments. It was sad at times. It had, like, romance in it. It had comedy. It was a good show overall. And yeah, I can totally agree. Adding, like, each, like, what genre to a show sometimes does end up making it much more enjoyable to watch. So yes, I completely agree with you there.
Yeah. I love how you included that note about Barry, because that is a show about an assassin, but he's also kind of longing for this girl that's in his acting class, and and then he's obviously conflicted because he's having to kill his friends and stuff. So there's a ton of different emotions that the viewer can feel there, some of which may invoke emotions in a certain viewer, and some of which may not. So yeah, there's just a lot of different ways that a viewer can interpret those emotions, and yeah. What do you think, Rodrigo?
Yeah, like for me, I like those intense drama, dark horror movies. You know, like what Heidi said, it has everything of everything.
Right.
Yeah, those are the good ones.
Yeah. So that's what directors will do, is they'll.
Comedies as well. I also like the one is. I watched this one. It was on Netflix. It was a good movie. It's in Spanish, but it was. Oh no, it's this Rock Vacation. Now you seen that? It's like it happened in real life. They made it into a comedy. Like and it was funny. It was really good. I enjoyed it.
Yeah. So like the director might like change what happened in real life, and change it so that he can entice a viewer. Maybe if the story wasn't interesting enough, he could make it a lot more interesting by adding certain aspects into the film to make it appeal to a bigger audience.